Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Nadi Digital Economy Malaysia. This is Karamjit Singh and with me is my colleague Zof Azmi, and we're going to just dive into the stories as we always do. Very interesting story to kick off, and this is actually I think we spoke maybe a week or 2 weeks ago about Malaysia's electric and electronical industry. And for you, those of you who remember, we were talking about how we are a global player. We are a key player in the global value chain, and where I think we contribute about 13% of the global back end, right, semiconductor output. That is no small feat for a relatively small country like Malaysia. And probably for that, Zoff, we also have to thank Intel's co-founder, right, Andy Grove. You know, and that legendary picture of him, right, skinny guy in the wavy hair, right, a black and white picture, and standing in a paddy field, right, with his pants pulled up to around his knees, right, and like surveying. But no matter what he could visualize, I don't think he visualized the extent that his investment would have, the multiplier effect it would have spawned. So incredible contribution to the economy in Malaysia. And to talk about that, we are talking about this year, right? Just for the first 8 months, right? This is the latest data because Topa, the minister, EPU minister, right, was one of the keynote speaker in this panel, which was on the RMK12, right? There was a webinar by the industry on RMK12, and Topa was speaking, and he spoke about the fact that for the first 8 months of this year, our exports, E&E exports, have been almost R500 billion. Okay, Malaysia's trade in E&E has amounted to 477 billion just in the first 8 months, right? Which is insane, right? And of that portion, exports rose by almost 20%. 282 billion was exports. So this really tells you what a serious heavyweight player these are. And the E&E sector at the moment represents about 35% of Malaysia's total exports. So 35% is almost 1/3 just from one industry vertical. So which is why they wanted to talk about how this industry is doing vis-a-vis RMK12 and what more needs to be done. And really Topa is saying that we want to pull out all the stops, and we're going to focus on closer collaboration between various government ministries. And I think he mentioned, of course, MITI. Yeah, you talked about MIDA. Of course, MIDA is an agency under MITI, so really it's about MITI, right? Just working closer together to try to hit some of the ambitious target they have for 12 Malaysia plan. And then there were some industry people involved also. And by the way, Topa also mentioned that there's some very successful, obviously, Malaysian companies in the value chain. And in particular, he mentioned one company called Skychip. And why did he mention Skychip? It's a new company, but they are focusing on doing cutting edge, right, integrate. But they've already filed for 10 patents in a year. And the industry in Malaysia is saying that Karamjit, watch out for Skychip. They are going to be a superstar company, or not full credit to them. And they're about a team of 80 IC engineers, right? And the majority of them are Malaysians. And I'm telling you, it is very hard to get 80 IC engineers, okay? And so they're all saying that watch out for this company. Okay, it could be the next Broadcom. You don't want to say that because that's Broadcom is like a multi-billion-dollar company, right? Valuation and all that. But it shows that the potential Malaysia has in this industry because, like I said, we are already at, for this year's exports, right? We're like, what did I mention? 200 over billion ringgit. It tells you that this is a strong industry in Malaysia, which means that the value chain, there's a supply chain in the industry, and we have many components of the supply chain, including the human capital talent. And I know Zoff wants to jump in on that soon. So we've got the brain power here, and now these are entrepreneurs now going into the very highest value chain, where at the IC level, your margins are like 35–40%. If you're working at the testing, automated and testing level in Malaysia, the margins are about 20%. You double the margins you're at the IP level, right, of this industry. But just quickly before Zoff jumps in, then one of the panelists was this gentleman called the Vitrox CEO, Chu Jeen Weng. And Chu is actually a DNA Digirati 50. And Chu he gave this amazing data point that I think most people would not have known. He said that the Malaysian automated and testing equipment companies, right, have grown 13,000% on a percentage basis. And how he measured that is, he said 10 years ago, the collective market cap of the listed A&T companies in Malaysia was about less than 200 million ringgit. Today, The AT&T company is listed on the Malaysian Stock Exchange they're almost all on our stock exchange. The market cap is almost 30 billion ringgit, which is why you got this 13,000% right growth of this company. And amazingly, Zof, he points to the fact that it's all because of the introduction of IR 4.0. Because IR 4.0 is where you got the biological systems merging with the electrical system, right? The digital system is coming together, and this is where you've got the vision, machine vision also coming in, right? AI and all that. And Chu, of course, his company Vitrox is one of the leaders in Asia in machine vision. And so he says that, look, the company is already doing this, but he's saying that the government should have a strategic plan around IR 4.0 to enable more policy push and maybe some grants and some incentive push, right? To accelerate the growth of this sector. Although the sector is already doing very well, he feels that more can be done. And it's exciting when the leading entrepreneurs in this space feels more can be done. And he's asking government to level up and step up to do more so that entrepreneurs like him and others, like the SkyChip team, can come forward and do more. So really exciting times in the industry. Zof, do you want to jump in here now?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, point back to what we discussed last week about PCOM saying that the salaries are going to remain stagnant in the short term, and there's going to be more talent than jobs. But what you're saying here, what Tokpa is saying, it sounds actually there is going to be a large demand for talent.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
And when we talk about the talent pipeline, what sometimes is an issue is what do we train the guys starting the pipeline now so that 3, 4, 5 years down the road, they're ready, right? I think this is one of the few times where you go, the path ahead is quite clear. It feels like you have a large burgeoning E&E industry that wants to move up the value chain. So that's clear. And then you have all these other companies which, because of 4IR, are going to explode over the next few years, right? So to me, it's one of these few times where it's very clear what you should be aiming to do, and we don't have to mess around too much, I think.
No, exactly. We don't have to mess around too much. And I think the industry feels that the Tour of Malaysia plan did not give a strong roadmap, which is the Tour of Malaysia plan is not a document carved in stone, right? So you can, of course, the industry can come together. It looks like they want to come together to create a strong roadmap for us. Literally speaking, Zof, if we get this right, 2 years from now, we'll be talking about Malaysia, probably comprising 18% of the global, semiconductor value chain, right? And especially 18% in the back end, right? Portion. Right now, we're 13% of the global value. So we can really accelerate very fast. And lots of engineers there. And remember, I think 2 weeks ago, we were on this very show, we were talking about how a factory in Batu Kawan is planning I think in total, there was like 2 billion ringgit committed over the next 2 years. And they need like about 3,000 headcount. And the mass majority of these are knowledge workers. So that there is a demand for talent there for sure. And like I said, I felt that PCOM was being quite very cautious, right? Unduly cautious. And data points like this, or not even data points, like optimistic projections like this from the likes of Chu, right? And the Minister Topa saying we're going to do more to propel the industry further, just reinforces my belief that there's a lot of opportunities available even right now, in the E&E sector in Malaysia. And we want to talk about IR 4.0. Let's move on to the next story, which is also coincidentally where government is stepping forward to help in the IR 4.0 space, right? But what is this about, Zof?
Well, it's about MDEC, and they've just recently
MDEC,
announced.
My favorite company.
Yeah. I like MDEC a lot. They've announced a new grant, the 4IR Catalyst Grant, and the idea is that it's a grant, and I'm going to quote them. It's for the purpose of co-creation, problem solving, and commercializing of 4IR solutions. So what they're trying to do is trying to encourage companies in Malaysia to, for want of a better word, digitize themselves better and move into the 4IR space. The grant is, I would say, fairly substantial. It's up to 50% of the project cost, subject to a ceiling of 2 million ringgit.
That's almost $500,000 ringgit. That's great. Yeah, $500,000 US. Sorry.
And that's for local applicants. If you are a foreign-owned company, then it's up to 30% of the project cost, but still the same ceiling limit.
I love that, Zof, that almost always our government grants are for obvious reasons given to majority Malaysian or fully Malaysian-owned companies. Here they're saying that For foreign-owned companies here, you can be majority foreign or fully foreign-owned. They will give you up to 30%, right? But also subject to a ceiling limit of 2 million, right? So, which is great.
I mean,
we cannot do this by ourselves, right? You need the best of Malaysian brain power and the best of global talent pool coming to Malaysia and contributing.
I mean, because some people may argue, why are you giving, for example, an MNC? Why are you giving them this kind of free money when they've got deep pockets themselves?
Yes.
But I think something that people maybe not appreciate is that the MNCs in various countries, in a way, are competing amongst themselves as well, and they each have to justify their own existence.
Exactly.
And any like a factory in Penang, for example, if they can be more productive than other factories in ASEAN, it's going to not shine the spotlight on themselves, as it were. And the other thing is, of course, having a successful project here in Malaysia is sort of a beacon or a exemplar for other companies to go and visit and see how things are done. So I look at it as, if they're doing good in Malaysia, then they're doing good in Malaysia. It doesn't matter if it's a foreign local company. That's how I would look at it.
I was talking yesterday to somebody in a government agency, and he's responsible for trying to bring in foreign investors. And he was telling me that, you hear so much bad news about Malaysia, the FDI not coming in. He said their investors are lining up to want to come into Malaysia, but these are not the companies which want to put in 500 million or 1 billion, ringgit or US dollars. But they're still putting in, millions of US dollars into investments or into the country. And you said the pipeline is an existing pipeline that you just need to close. You're not building the pipeline. So there is optimism, because I think if you are like E&E space, right? If you're in the E&E space, the fact that we are 13% of the value of the back end, right? Global industry, people around the world in the E&E space already know Malaysia is a player. And they'll be already thinking, hey, let's go check out Malaysia. How come they're such a big player, right? Those who don't know, they come and they see what's happening, they like it. And because 13% means we've got a long history of the EE industry here. So civil servants and bureaucrats and politicians and technocrats and professionals are very familiar with this space. So you're not talking above people's heads when you talk about this. So they say, hey, yeah, these guys get it. They know this, they know that. So let's try to make something happen in Malaysia. Of course, then you got to give some incentives. And when people say that a lot of investments go to Singapore, Singapore plays an unrivaled game in terms of giving them incentives. And sometimes they will pay for salaries of the top companies, right? Hey, you're going to bring in 500 jobs. We want these jobs in our country. We'll pay for the first 2 years. They'll subsidize jobs for that many people for that long. Because how Singapore looks at it is that they're paying salaries of people who are going to be based in Singapore. They'll be renting, they'll be buying, they'll be taking, transport, they'll be taking taxis, they'll be, going to Sentosa Island, they'll be going gambling there also, right? And all that. So the multiplier of those people, getting government sponsoring them the salaries first is multiplying in the economy as well. And remember, after 2 years, then the company takes over. So they make it very compelling for the companies initially, and then they know you're there, locked in there for 10, 20 years. Right? So that's how they play the game. They look long term. So we shouldn't be too worried that, hey, why are we giving grants to these big companies? So the big companies even want more. And before we go on this, remember, for those of you, when Amazon was looking for a second location in the US to be US headquarters, right? They literally created a Squid
like
Games,
an open call, right?
Maybe, a Squid Game competition with all the mayors, right? So who wants to fight to get our investment, right? And they were throwing themselves at Amazon, correct or not? So that was a very vivid example of what can happen when the big companies, you can say, hey, Amazon is got so much money, they make ridiculous amounts of money, why they need help? Hey, they didn't get that rich by spending their own money. When you can, you always want to spend other people's money. But anyway, with that, let's talk about a company which has spent its money, right? Not other people's money, or maybe its money, and of course shareholders' money, right? To invest and make itself a stronger player now. And we're talking about Maxis, which has clearly become the most aggressive telco in Malaysia to make investment into the local ecosystem to strengthen its capabilities, right, in its vertical. So Maxis is, of course, they do mobile, but they also do network security. So they have been making, and we mentioned them making 2 or 3 acquisitions before, but now they've made a doozy. They've invested in a listed company called Maxis, okay, Asia Sdn Bhd. It's a Malaysian-based company, but it's a subsidiary of a company called Maxis International Berhad. right, which is on the Bursa's lead market. Maxis has acquired this company fully, of course, pending all the regulatory approvals, right, for about 158 million ringgit, about 38 million US dollars. Okay, and why? Because this company is a specializing in the managed network and security services end to end. And I think with this now, they bring about a pool of 70 qualified engineers into the fold. So Maxis is always saying that, and everyone is saying there's not enough engineers in Malaysia to play this role in managed security and network security. And now Maxis at one go gets a company with about 70 over expert headcount and also their customer base. And I think this really changes the game because according to industry players, the people will be affected by these are the enterprise players of the other telcos. So like Axiata has got Axiata Enterprise, right? They play in the same space as Maxis Enterprise, and you've got DG also, Enterprise. So these three players are competing in the market, and now Maxis has a clear lead. And now that they have grown to this size, it's easy for them to open the doors for customers also. They say, wow, Maxis investing a lot, are very serious. Let's see how they can help me in my business. So I think this really propels Maxis ahead. And the CEO of a tech MNC told me that he thinks at some point, one of the other companies I mentioned, right, are probably going to make an acquisition of their own to accelerate their growth in this area. Because you cannot grow organically, Zoff. It takes too long to hire even 20 network engineers, right? Because what you're going to do is you're going to come to Maxis and try to headhunt Maxis people, right? And then your salaries get inflated to a crazy amount. So it's easier to just go and acquire. And I don't know if there are any other companies in this space that have got that many people like Maxis does now. And Maxis has been building his business for like 15 or 16 years. So it's a long time. And the interesting thing is that Maxis feels that this helps them cement the foundation for their business to be in a 5G world. Very interesting. Where you'll have a lot more private networks, you've got fixed wireless access. So that's interesting. Maxis sees there's going to be great potential for this business, managed network security, the fixed wireless access when 5G becomes a reality, and it will be a reality. And they're positioning themselves now. And by the way, if you don't know, the automotive companies also are now partnering with the 5G, with the wireless players. And you've got in Germany, Porsche has partnered with, I think, Deutsche Telekom or somebody, right? And they've already built a R&D facility in their R&D. They built a 5G network, private network in their R&D plant and also in their manufacturing plant in Germany. And then in the US, I think GM has partnered with with Verizon or AT&T to do the same thing. So the car players are also getting ready for this 5G world. And here, of course, Perodua or Proton have not done that yet, but it's a matter of time before they probably tie up with one of these telcos also, right? Because then when your cars come out, your cars are already compatible with the network, and you're already doing your R&D now. So exciting times. So underlying this acquisition with this 5G world that we are moving into coming up. So Zoff, sorry, I feel like we've spoken for a long time with just 3 stories in me, right?
Yeah, I know. I just want to also say that, of course, with everything coming back to normal again, I think a lot of people are anticipating like a very sharp jump back up, right? Because this so-called V shape. Now, this V shape is really going to be real, actually, because thanks to vaccines.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Very quickly, moving on to the next story.
We're going to quickly wrap up. We've got 3 more stories, but we're going to do them like in 1 minute, give you a flavor of the stories. Yeah, Zoff?
Yes. So this company called SolarVest have a startup program. Now, SolarVest is a company that specializes, well, you can tell from the name, they specialize in renewable energy, green technology, and they have a market cap of 900 million. So it's not a tiny company, but what they have done is they've put up this fund, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to get local startups to join them, either with seed money of 10,000 ringgit to do a proof of concept. And if they like their your proof of concept, then they will then partner with you and are willing to spend up to 100,000 ringgit, from an accelerator fund in exchange for a certain percentage of ownership for the company. Now, although the figures here are not large, I think it's very interesting because this is in green tech and renewable energy, which I believe will be a huge growth industry going forward. And then just surprising that not to see more of this kind of thing happening. since we're talking about renewable energy and electricity, the next story is about Sarawak Energy, right? And Sarawak Energy have reported that they have discovered an illegal crypto mining operation near Kuching.
And they keep breaking record. Every time they have an announcement, it's like the largest.
I mean, they estimate that this operation has been stealing 300,000 ringgit worth of electricity per month. I mean, that's just phenomenal, right?
That's an insane
and of
amount,
course,
yeah.
I think we've talked about this before, that the fact that if these people had to pay for that electricity, they wouldn't make that much money making Bitcoin. But because this is free electricity, because they're stealing it, then this is 1,200 machines, right? And these photos of rows and rows and rows of machines.
Insane.
So I was telling Karam, I find it very amusing that like this, because they're usually in these rundown warehouses and these abandoned buildings, right, where you find things like this. But I guess the question is, how could you steal 300,000 ringgit worth of electricity per month
and for so long, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I hope they're keeping their eye out for it.
I suspect these companies, you've got your geeks, right? But the heart of the company is like probably a double major, university technology in Malaysia, or University Putra or whatever, right? E&E major, right? Because you're an expert in electrical, circuitry, and how to do all this hanky-panky stuff.
See, this is why E&E is running short of talent, right?
There you
doing
go.
Work like this.
The illegal crypto miners are the culprits, man. All the engineers have gone there. Okay, quick one. The last one now. I just want to wrap up, and we want to just give a shout out to EPF. We quickly spoke about it in a previous episode, where they have rolled out an e-payroll system, where if you are a SME or a micro SME and you don't have a digital version, a digitized dashboard or tool, right, to help you with your payroll and some of your accounting measures, EPF is saying that, hey guys, here we've built our own app-based, right, service. If you don't have it, you can use ours. And lo and behold, at this World Pension Summit, yes, there is a summit, a conference called the World Pension Summit, and this time it was in Amsterdam, right, or in Holland somewhere, and they were awarded the winner, right? I think they claimed an award, So
an innovation award
again.
An innovation award.
Yeah, innovation, right? It's fantastic, right? So, and apparently it's the second award received from them. They had received one in 2016 earlier. So, but this is the second time. So well done to EPF, right? Your technology team also. And by the way, this product was only launched in the Malaysian market in June. How significant is that? Only in June, and 3 months later, they are considered, this is they win a World Innovation Award. So again, hats off to EPF. With that, we're going to end today's show, which has really run over, but we got carried away. There was some interesting stuff and very important stuff to talk about, where we're sharing our opinions and thoughts. We'll see you again next week.
Bye.